Congratulations, you just sold a lost Da Vinci for $40 million to a world-class museum in Paris. And it only took you 6 months. 6 months locked away in a damp, dusty basement to pull off literally the ultimate illusion. You know, you can still feel the texture of that antique canvas under your fingers, right? The exact weight of it as you handed it over to a white-gloved curator who, no joke, had tears in his eyes. He saw a masterpiece. But you saw a masterful lie. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're diving headfirst into the thrilling and honestly terrifying shadow economy of high-stakes art forgery. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that $40 million, that's your incredible, life-changing payout. But look, earning that wasn't just a matter of slapping some paint on a canvas and waiting for a massive check to clear. No way. You spent half a year completely cut off from the outside world. Day in and day out, you meticulously breathed in these dizzying, toxic fumes from aged linseed oil. You literally risked your own health to perfectly replicate 16th century lead-white pigments. I mean, grinding minerals by hand until your knuckles bled, all just to get the chemical composition spot on. You poured every ounce of your soul and your health into a complete fraud. And now, that massive payoff is sitting right there, ready to change your reality forever. And because of that payout, you are suddenly living the dream. You've upgraded to a stunning, multi-level condo with floor-to-ceiling glass walls overlooking the city skyline. You're rocking a bespoke watch on your wrist that costs significantly more than your very first car. It feels like you've won the game. But wait. Looming right over all that luxury lifestyle is this completely suffocating sense of impending doom. See, the museum curators just scheduled a new state-of-the-art spectral scanner to analyze your masterpiece first thing Tuesday morning. This machine is a monster. It literally sees through time, through every single layer of oil and varnish. And you know, deep in your gut, that your painstakingly crafted pigment mix has one single tell, just one tiny, microscopic flaw that could instantly expose the fraud and completely destroy this shiny new life of yours. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, the origin of the illusion, from debt to deception. Because this dangerous high-stakes game actually starts with something super mundane. You see, being an elite art forger doesn't always start with some grand criminal master plan. Sometimes it's just boredom on a rainy Tuesday. You're a talented art student, and over the years, you've suddenly realized your incredibly expensive, perfectly legitimate art degree is basically just a one-way ticket to soul-crushing debt. But then, sitting in the studio, you have this light bulb moment. You realize you are a magician with a brush. To you, a blank canvas isn't an intimidating space. It's just raw information. It's a physical hard drive waiting to be coded with ones and zeros that you have the power to manipulate. So, you start small. Over a few months, maybe you find a lost sketch from a minor Dutch master. You tell people it was tucked away on an abandoned server or in some dusty attic in Amsterdam. Within days, it hits you. Your brushstrokes can literally create immense, unquestionable value completely out of thin air. Let's move to part 2 and see how this builds, the shadow economy architects of identity. Because you are about to evolve from a simple painter to a full-blown financial architect. To make a $40 million lie actually stick, you need to create an undeniable trail of art appreciation. You can't just casually stroll into your local bank branch and deposit a check that size. You have to execute what insiders call the Iron Gammon formula, a highly specific, layered method of washing illicit funds right through the art market. So you start building a network. You set up a shell company in Switzerland. And that's just one of 8 you've meticulously established in places with highly favorable, anonymous LLC laws like Wyoming and Delaware. The true owners are legally hidden from the public. So this Swiss company buys a completely no-name painting for $50,000. A week later, a second shell company, which, plot twist, you also secretly own, purchases that exact same painting at a private auction for $5 million. Boom. Suddenly that money is sparkling clean. On paper, it's just the free market recognizing your absolute genius. You make the money dance, zipping it rapidly through accounts in Cyprus and Panama, until it becomes a total ghost in the global financial system. Which brings us to part 3, the cartel's canvas, designing for the underworld. This is the terrifying pivot where the game totally changes and you become a very real asset for people like El Jefe or the ruthless heads of the international crime families. So the crucial point is this.
When you get this exceptionally good at moving invisible money, you inevitably attract the absolute worst kind of investors. Pretty soon, you aren't just some talented guy with a palette and a few LLCs. You become a highly guarded captive asset. And let me be perfectly clear, these syndicates do not want your beautiful art to hang on their walls. They want your unique talent to transform their massive, highly conspicuous duffel bags of illicit street cash into clean, tangible assets. You transition into their chief financial officer of the canvas. Think about that for a second. Your greatest artistic talent has been entirely hijacked to wash blood money. And the perks for this new role? Well, you get to work 24/7 in an ultra-luxurious, sprawling private villa that you can never, ever really leave.
Part 4, The Gilded Cage, a very expensive loose end. We're now entering a very silent, incredibly claustrophobic reality.
The psychological toll here is just absolute. You don't have real friends anymore. You only have associates. And when they come around, they aren't chatting about sports or the weather. They're whispering about who disappeared last week without a trace. Your entire daily routine shifts from creative exploration to pure, unadulterated paranoia. I'm talking physically getting down on your hands and knees to check the wheel wells of your luxury car for GPS trackers every single morning. You are constantly looking over your shoulder. You're changing your burner phone every single week. Because you are the sole man who knows exactly where every single dirty dollar and every single fake painting is buried across the globe. And in this unfitting underworld, that knowledge makes you a very, very expensive loose end. You are a prisoner in a kingdom of your own making, standing entirely alone in a 60-seat home theater that is always empty, just watching the security cameras continuously track your every single move.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crushing realization that eventually dawns on you. You don't actually have a choice anymore. You thought you were the king of the art world, the master manipulator pulling all the strings from behind an easel. But despite meticulously building these beautiful, lavish lives and impenetrable financial fortresses for others through your illusions, you have completely erased your own identity. You are no longer an artist. You are literally just a number in a heavily encrypted spreadsheet, being coldly moved to a different column by people you will never even meet. You are a pawn in a much darker, much larger game, and there is absolutely no exit strategy. It's just a fascinating and frankly terrifying look into how invisible assets shape the underground world. We go deep into the shadow economy and systems like the Iron Gemin formula just like this every single week in our explainers, exploring the identities you've always wondered about, but would definitely never want to actually live. So I want to turn it over to you and leave you with this final thought to ponder. If you were a trillionaire operating in this hidden, high-stakes space, what's the first rounding error you'd buy to clean your slate? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.